Yeah, we're recording. We're on here.
Oh, beautiful. Hey Jharal, thanks for taking the time today to have a quick chat with us around your short yet exciting career in the National Rugby League competition. 4 years on the field, we saw 33 tries for the Broncos, 2 for Queensland, and a try in all 3 matches for Australia. However, in 2012, we saw you unfortunately suffer a career-ending leg injury during a match. 5 years later, we're very interested to hear about the journey you have taken in life after sport, so thanks again for coming. Could you give us a brief insight as to where you were at in life before you became a full-time player for the Brisbane Broncos?
Well, firstly, I'm a kid from up north, so my family moved down when I was a real young kid. But I started playing soccer before I started playing rugby league, which is a sport I really enjoyed playing. But I started playing my junior rugby league at North Devils. I grew into senior rugby league, obviously there playing Colts, and my journey into the under-20s where I had my first year in 2008 with their squad, so leading 2007 pre-season, leading in 2008, with some really good household names still now, and your Ben Hunch, Andrew McCullochs, your Joshy Hoffmans, your Alex Fenn, your Josh Maguire. So pretty good pedigree at the Brisbane Broncos to be a part of, and the journey I started obviously there before 2009, debuting for the Broncos against the Cowboys in round 1.
Very nice. So you've gone on now and you've set it yourself in as to become a full-time first grader. I guess you could say the world was at your feet. What was it like at that time? And I guess, did you have steps in place for life after sport at this time in your career?
To answer the last question, no, I didn't have any steps in place. I actually was a carpenter when I was in under-20s, but as soon as I became a first grader, sort of that all went out the windows. Because people obviously don't know, it takes up a lot of your time to become a professional rugby league player. So leading into, obviously playing first grade, I never really had any steps apart from that. Educationally, I wish I'd had done something a bit more, but no, I didn't have anything into place leading into that. But you sort of put all your eggs in one basket when you become a professional rugby league player to really get the best out in yourself, your ability, and look after your body. So it was something it was a big decision I had to make at the time to be able to put myself in the best stead for my career of rugby league. Even though it's a short career, I wanted to be the best of the best in the short amount of time I could play the game.
Cool. The injury occurs and the road to recovery begins. How was the process around that?
Yeah, it was pretty tough. About over 10 operations later, 2 months in hospital, and a career-ending injury. But I think the steps I took after the game was to really just put myself out there to become anything I wanted to be, and whether it was trying to become educationally smart again and going to university, which I did try, but I did fit the right boots in staying here at the Broncos club and working with Indigenous community kids and working in that field, but now moving into media, which I really enjoy, and the digital side is growing in any sport. The Brisbane Broncos have the biggest digital media scope in Australia, so for me to fit in there, and it just seems so right since I'm such a larrikin and around the place. I really enjoy that kind of stuff, being around the players still and being able to interview them. That's the type of field that I've taken in to after rugby league now.
Yeah, nice, and obviously we know you at a personal level. We know that you're a good joker and you like to have fun, and you always put the best in everyone. I guess, how did you cope though mentally and physically once you were told you could never play rugby league again? Like, were there any strategies you used to help yourself through that period? Yeah,
I think that was probably one of the toughest things I had to do as a rugby league player. Move on. When you're such a young kid, and I think anyone knows that when you play sports at a young age, you just have to be so driven for something. And I was driven such for sport, but moving away from the game was something that was really, really tough. Mentally, it hurt me a lot. But I think the way I strategised around it was, like you said, just being happy and positive. And if I didn't have those kind of attributes to myself before I started playing footy, probably wouldn't have made it out the other side. I was very lucky that I was surrounded by good people. So, my family, friends, teammates and fans in the club really gathered around me when I hurt myself. So moving out of the field of playing footy was definitely very tough for myself. But being positive was a big picture of myself, and I couldn't see my life without positivity in it. You don't play the top grade of footy. You don't you're not successful unless you are positive. So I just put one foot in front of the other and just kept walking forward and just saying to myself, I'll never let it get to me, I suppose.
Very good. And you briefly touched on saying that you had a lot of close people to you. I'm assuming they would have been just as devastated as you, but did they help you in regards to support, being uplifting, getting you sort of back on your feet?
Well, at first it was telling my family. It's like telling them they failed with something as well, because they were with you the whole way. So someone like my grandparents or my grandfather and my mother and my brother, they were with me since day dot before I started playing the game. Before I was Jharal Yowie, I was just Jharal Yowie, if that makes sense. And it did affect a lot of people, especially my nan and pop. They took it really hard, and because they obviously felt like they failed in something as well, because we tried so hard for so many years to be able to come this far as a family to get to where we wanted to be. It was really tough for them mentally and emotionally. But those people, while they were there, while I was at my highest, they were the people there while I was at my lowest. So they were definitely people who drove me to be successful, not just in rugby league, but in life after it, and as is why I'm still at the Brisbane Broncos now.
Good. We do see that you have a role now with the Brisbane Broncos in the administration team. Do you feel like there was enough resources provided by the club to help you through that transitional period?
Yeah, definitely. I've actually been given a new job here now and a new title. It's Media and Fan Engagement Officer. So basically I run all the social media and help all the digital side of the stuff. Previously, before that, I was in the community side of stuff with working with Indigenous kids and making sure that attendance was one of the biggest things on getting them to school. And I'm very privileged to be put in that position. But I do know that Paul White, the CEO, when he first took his job here, and back in 2011 now, he did want to make a big point that he wanted ex-players to become workers here at the club, and he's done a really good job at that. So I praise the Brisbane Broncos for doing that, because not only like myself, Jack Reed are now on the books here, Justin Hodges as well, Scott Prince. So when you look at it, and Mick Hancock, so people like that, we keep the club alive, I suppose, because if you just leave rugby league and you've got nothing else, it's pretty tough on you, and I've seen it happen to players. So the Brisbane Broncos are a massive help in this situation. Great.
You've just mentioned before that you've seen it happen to other players who haven't had the same sort of experience, which leads me to my next question. Do you know of any other athletes? I mean, you don't have to say any names, but I guess, has anyone sort of spoken to you, or you know of any stories that were successful or unsuccessful in the transition from sport to life after?
Oh, I think there is a few cases where people have left the game because of injuries. Now, look, if it wasn't for the Broncos being such a great outfit, we wouldn't have these opportunities. But less unsuccessful clubs, can't give those players those opportunities, which I think is not good enough. And sometimes I think that comes down to the NRL as well, the Player Association, and we need to look after our players a lot more when it comes to career-ending injuries. We never had anything to place, and it took something like Alex McKinnon for us to really wake up to ourselves to be able to put something in place. So, in saying that we have done something for the players, that's 75% of your last contract money for your last year is, if you're still a 80 grand player, it's still not a lot of money for you to set your life up. And for me, I see it as an apprentice when you're coming through the grades as 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13s, and you're playing into Colts. We talk about true chippies having trades and being apprentices for 4 years. Well, for us, being in the Queensland Cup and playing Colts, that's an apprenticeship for us. So us not having a backup plan for our players when they lose their careers, it's pretty silly. I think we should have something more, because we put everything into playing sports, and we don't get enough out of it. We put our bodies on the line, and we know the risks we take, but if we don't have the players doing that, we don't have the players like Jonathan Thurston's, Cameron Smith coming out in our games and being where they are. So we really need something in place, because otherwise we're going to see it more and more. We'll lose players to career-ending injuries because people will get stronger and faster, and we'll just lose more players.
Yeah, nice. Just looking back at the club here in general, is there support here for the younger players coming through with pathways and like post-career stuff? Do they guide them in the right way?
I think Broncos do it pretty well. I know that every under-20s player, and I know that under-20s is won't continue after this year, but they do have to have a job. They have to study, do some kind of work or education, which is really good. But what happens is, and I think we need to drive more, is as soon as you make a first grade squad, they stop doing that. They stop looking after you, as in pushing you to do that. I think they still need to be on as hard as you, whether you're Sam Thaiday at the Brisbane Broncos, or whether you're someone like Gemet Shibazaki who's just come through the under-20s. You need to be pushing those boys to have a career after rugby league, because we all know it can happen to anyone, and I'm a perfect example. So we have to keep pushing and make sure that we have these pathways.
Yeah, nice. And you mentioned briefly about the Rugby League Players Association, which is somewhat new within the NRL. Is that the support and guidance in the league now for players if a serious career-ending injury is to happen?
Oh, definitely. We need to stand up as players and be accountable for each other. I think if we're not, the NRL control us. We don't want to be controlled. We're the people that play the game. We turn the revenues over. We put bums on the seats. So if we're not on the field, what happens to the NRL? So to have the RLPA come on board and really be aggressive with what we want out of the game, I think it's very important. And I think one of those things is having support for players who leave the game early, because our average player is something like 40 games in the NRL, and then they leave the game. So if you're lucky enough to play 300 games like your Darren Lockyers, your Cameron Smiths, your Corey Parkers, then you're set for life, but other boys just aren't. So the RLPA are doing a great job and advancing on the NRL to make it better.
Very good. Do you think that there should be more education around serious injury or post-career options in a school setting? Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that, but I do think that would be a great option. Educating anyone on anything new is always good in any field, and being in the NRL, we haven't been very forward on it, and we haven't pushed for it in previous years. But as the game gets faster and as the game develops, it needs to grow in that field as well. So I think that's something we need to look at. Yeah. Very good. And last but not least, what does life after sport now hold for Jharal Yee?
For myself, I just want to be the best version of myself. I think everyone has goals in life, and obviously I have a goal. But one of my biggest goals is to enjoy my life, enjoy myself, make sure that people around me, I'm positive. I did enjoy being at the top of the game, and one of the things was money. It was great having all that money, but money doesn't buy you happiness, and it is a true story. The rest of the life for me, I just want to be known as that lad that injured himself but bounced back and just went on with life and enjoyed it. So if anyone can take anything out of this, I hope they can take something out of that. Just be positive in life and move forward. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, brother. Whoa, straight down the barrel.